Okay, so as the name of this event suggests, AOF has partnered with FedEx to provide robust support for small businesses looking to create or develop an online presence through the FedEx e-commerce learning lab. We all saw how critical digital sales became during the COVID-19 lockdowns, and FedEx is very committed to providing resources that empower small business recovery and success. We are really grateful to be one of FedEx's nonprofit partners. This seminar series, which is one component of the broader Learning Lab program, dives deep into some of the intricacies of e-commerce operations. So I just want to make sure that everyone's up to speed on our Zoom technology. I see so many of you are already using the chat. If you're unfamiliar, the chat button is on a black bar at the bottom of your screen or on your phone. You can click on that and interact with us throughout the webinar. And please, if you have questions, that's where we'll be looking for our live Q&A at the end. Also, at the very end, there is a really short survey that we would love for you to take. We really value that feedback, and it allows us to ensure that we're providing valuable information in a way that resonates with you and your business. So we would love it if you took a few minutes to give us that feedback. All right, so I'm really excited to jump into our introductions today and share with you who's going to be taking us through this conversation on advanced marketing analytics. First, we have Divya Malige. Divya leads a performance marketing analytics team at FedEx, supporting integrated marketing efforts. With over 10 years of experience in marketing analytics, Divya has worn multiple hats supporting organizations improve on their products and marketing with loyalty analytics, profile builds, performance analytics, channel performance, personalization, and journey analytics. In addition to working in marketing, Divya has spent 10 years working on credit cards and banking and tech. Divya's leadership in go-to marketing analytics has helped teams improve and optimize across their digital channels and improve efficiencies and marketing ROI. Divya has a master's in marketing analytics from University of Texas at Dallas. Hi, Divya.
Hey.
So great to have you. And next, yes, and next we have Desha Elliott. Desha has a successful track record of consulting on business development, strategic partnerships, and digital marketing for both growth stage and established companies. Her current role as local market manager for AOF bridges community and corporate partnerships and resources to small businesses. In addition to working in finance, Desha spent 10 years in media and tech. She was editor-in-chief of nationally distributed Be Your Own Success Story magazine and the winner of the Celebration Bowl hackathon for her edutech company, PB7 app. Desha's leadership and development in business for early and growth stage businesses yielded opportunities for multinational expansion and brand partnerships. Her leadership and strategy have been demonstrated with international corporations, Acid Pro, Reebok, Cargill, just to name a few. She is the author of Hi, My Name Is, a marketing guide for entrepreneurs. Her thought leadership and business advising impact has been highlighted in multiple publications, including NerdWallet, Black Enterprise, NBC, CBS, and more. She is alumna of Northern Kentucky University and Strayer University, as well as a current PhD student in the Whitney M. Young Jr. School of Social Work. Hi, Desha.
Hello, Brittany.
Great to have you both here. So let's jump into the content because we know that we have the best people to take us through. So first, Desha, I want to start with you. Let's start with website analytics for businesses selling their products online. How can a business owner access that data and insights about their website? Like, where do they look?
So first thing to recognize, Brittany, the internet is like a huge mall, and your website or your business is like one of those stores within the mall. Right. And when you go inside of this mall, you usually see a directory guide, some type of dashboard, some type of menu. Well, the same thing applies to your website. So no matter if you are using Shopify, you're using Squarespace, whether you're using GoDaddy, Wix, all of them have a dashboard. Now, if you take GoDaddy and if you take Squarespace, they'll usually have a small snippet, kind of like a snapshot It may say sales, it may say kind of those top referrals. But then if you look over to the left-hand side, you'll see something that says analytics. In GoDaddy, it's called marketing. And Wix, it's called analytics and reports. And then when you look at WordPress, it's called stats. And when you dive deeper and click on this tab, it'll break out some things that you'll see: site sections, unique visitors, what device are folks using when they actually get inside of your website? How is it that they are connecting to that online presence of yours? And so it's really great for people to become super familiar with these particular tools because they're one of the first ones that are attached to the particular website. We also want to think about, I would say the grandfather of analytics, which is Google Analytics. I remember, 2009, 2008, Google was doing their best to really teach people about blogging and word websites and being able to basically feed the internet with content. And now here we are today, you have that same tool that for the most part is free. I think they're working their way towards being a bit premium, but that same tool has some of the basics to be able to understand, well, what are some key words that you should have in your website? Where exactly should you place these keywords? Is there a certain amount of money that is being spent for this particular word? And being able to take that Google Analytics kind of dashboard and being able to connect it with your website is one of the kind of, I say, best starter and originator tools for really understanding how traffic is being driven. Because again, remember, the internet is a big, huge digital mall, and you want to be able to understand what is it that makes people want to go into your store.
Yes, I love the idea of a mall with everything you could ever want, because that leads perfectly into our next question, which I would love to kick it to Divya. Of course, everyone is keeping an eye on how many sales are actually taking place, but what key metrics should entrepreneurs be looking at other than their sales?
Great question, Whitney. Sorry, Brittany. I was just talking to somebody called Whitney. Anyway, yes, while sales is extremely critical and crucial, and it's important for all businesses to track that, I think it's also vital that most companies track other marketing analytics and key metrics in them. So you need to be able to look at these so that you can pay attention and have a comprehensive overview of your entire business's performance. We could look at multiple metrics. If you are thinking about acquisition, so in order to improve, say, sales, you want to get more customers in the door. So like Desha was saying, there's a big mall and you want more customers coming into your store. So that's acquisition, bringing more people in. So you're going to be spending some money to bring those people in. So one of the metrics you can look at is customer acquisition cost. Now, why that's important is that is going to help you. That's going to be one of those metrics that you use to evaluate your marketing performance and your marketing strategies. So you could have a customer acquisition cost per customer that you acquire. Now, this cannot be used in alone. You need to be looking at the value of a customer. So that brings in a customer lifetime value. So it's important for anybody to understand what is the total revenue that any customer can bring in during the lifetime of that customer. And by the lifetime of the customer, it's the time during which that customer has a relationship with you as a business. So understanding that customer lifetime value will help you in long-term profitability analysis. So there's a cost you put in to bring the customer into your door, but there's a long-term profitability you get from them. But in order to keep them long-term now, you want to make sure you hold on to them. So that's where you want to look at churn rates. Churn rates is when you have a customer, how fast are they leaving you? So, you know, when customers stop using your products or your services, that's when they churn. So if your goal is to increase your sales and your revenue, you want to make sure that those customers that you have, you keep them, you retain them. So your churn rates has to be low so that that base revenue stays or the base sales stays, and then you're acquiring more, right? And all of that kind of leads into, you know, ROI calculation. So that's more you know, long-term profitability and a comparison of the profitability of your investment when it compares to your cost. So these are like some high-level marketing analytic metrics that you need to look at. But at a more detailed level, if you're looking at this whole internet and your website, you can look at metrics like the traffic to your website. So these are basic metrics. Desha was talking about Google Analytics. So these can give you metrics like overall traffic to your website. How much are they bouncing? You might want to look at the critical path to conversion for your main conversion or for your product or your service. And then look at how are people following through in that path. What's their drop-off rates? What are their conversion rates? So keeping an eye on that. If your add to cart to the next step is 40% and then suddenly it drops to 5, you know there's something wrong with your website. So you're then making sure that you're keeping track of this, also giving them a great customer experience, not losing out on revenue, while not giving them a bad customer experience that might lead to that churn we spoke about earlier. So there are multiple things you can look at, even from, you know, a website perspective. You can look at more journey metrics like abandonment ratio. How many people are abandoning at a certain step? And why is that? Is there a friction that you can take care of in the customer experience? You can also look at customer satisfaction scores. That kind of tells you how loyal your customers are. So if you have a product which people keep buying, let's say you have some pet products and you have some loyalists, you want to keep, you know, hold on to them. So there has to be a customer satisfaction score you can look at, or a net promoter score with some surveys. So these are some metrics you can look at. And if you have like a sales channel, maybe you can even look at lead generation and how quickly are you converting, or how quick does the business take a lead and convert it to an active customer. So activation and lead conversion rates can be another thing that you can look at. So when you look at all of these metrics along with that final metric, I think you get a very holistic view of how your business is performing.
Yes, I love that there are so many different ways to get that more detailed information of not just the sales, but kind of understanding what your customer is doing. And you can kind of see that through these additional analytics. So it's really cool. There's a lot of data out there. Wow. Okay, so this next question, Desha, I would love to ask you, what analytics tools or resources come standard with business accounts on social media platforms?
That's a great question. And again, it's important to realize that these social media platforms need folks on it, and they need folks to feed it content that is like educating, valuable, entertaining, because it's a give-take relationship, right? Like if the content on there is worth you, and folks will find a way to show up. And so when you think about the social media that's right at your fingertips, a couple of platforms that I pulled out for this discussion is Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and X, formerly known as Twitter. And so with Instagram, when you go inside of there, you have the ability to see your accounts reach or your impressions. You have the ability to look for that from the past 90 days. And so that's an all right kind of metric to play with. That gives you at least a quarter. You know, I think we'll dive deeper about maybe some that can look a little bit longer than that. But right at hand, it's 90 days. They will also show you the accounts that engage with the content. And so they'll let you know who's been interacting with any stories, reels, any videos that you posted, live videos. They'll let you know what's the difference between maybe content that you boosted versus ones that are organically just placed there. They'll let you know if there's so many saves, so many reposts. And then they'll dive deeper into the audience, right? What country do they come from? What's the age range? Is there a specific gender? Are you speaking more to, this particular or that particular? Next, when you look at TikTok, you're looking at video views, you're looking at profile views. Some of it in there, you'll be able to tell a little bit about the demographics, but for the most part, they'll mostly tell you about who it is, how many times the video has actually been analyzed. When you looked at LinkedIn, you'll notice search highlights, right? So have folks been typing in your name? Now they're interesting because they work off of a freemium model as well. That's very clear. And they'll say, if you want to know exactly who's been looking, you can upgrade. But you at least know that folks have been looking. And that's, you rather be searched for than not searched for. The goal is to get people to connect with your business. You'll look at the visitor highlights, right? And so how many unique visitors did you have come over time? What are your total followers? How many are new? How many did you have within the last 30 days? And again, how does this relate to what you've done organically, to what you've sponsored or what you've boosted? And they'll also talk about the locations of your followers as well. Next, when you look at X, and I know this has been a little tricky for folks because if they've been kind of transitioning brands and platforms, sometimes folks have had a little trouble getting back to their analytics. And they've had to go back to, I want to say it's like analytics.twitter.com in order to find their ex. That's okay. They're in between relationships and they'll work that out. But for the most part, you'll be able to see the impressions, the total engagements, the engagement rate. And again, if you have any videos, you'll be able to see the number of views. And if you have any links, you'll be able to understand how many people have went to click on that particular link.
That's amazing. It shows how each different platform, based on what the different audiences are doing there, those analytics are kind of tailored. LinkedIn having those metrics and different things. And it's really, I feel like good as a business owner to know those different kinds of engagements on each platform, because that can really inform your decision on how if growth is part of it, where you can look for those things. So Desha, I wanted to ask you, are there third-party tools for social media analysis that you'd recommend business owners using? And what are maybe the pros and cons of those tools?
Sure. And we started diving deeper into them a little bit earlier in this topic when we talked about Google Analytics. For the most part, social media is its own kind of miniature mall, so to speak. And so usually the tools that I recommend to people kind of help bring all of those different platforms in front of your face. So as I was going through the different social media platforms, I was curious to wonder if people were literally going in and out of each platform to see each and every one of those analytics. That is very time consuming, and I do not recommend it for, your health, right? So you want to be able to have a nice spread, a nice dashboard that tells you, okay, this is how I'm doing in Instagram, this is how I'm doing Facebook, this is how I'm doing on LinkedIn, and then be able to have customized either reports or analytics and kind of do a comparison and analysis with all of those. And so Google Analytics does that. The interface with Google Analytics sometimes can be tricky for folks if digital marketing is totally new to you, and that's okay. They, of course, have really lovely videos that go along with it, but it takes patience. So the more kind of prettier, visual, aesthetically pleasing sites that I recommend are like Buffer or Sprout Social. Buffer is really great for those who are especially on a budget, and it comes with a free trial. I love a good free trial. Remember to set your calendar the day before if it's not the platform for you, because they're a business just like you're a business. But essentially, if you take Buffer will allow you during that free trial to be able to take 3 social channels be able to not only schedule out your content, kind of compare how the content is with other creators or other similar brands. And they also have the ability to pull those analytics. But again, I think that trial might be maybe 2 weeks. So be sure to figure out if it's the one for you. The next one I loved, and this is the one that was around when I was deeper into my digital marketing days, Hootsuite. Now, mind you, Hootsuite back in the day, oh my goodness, I want to say it was a free trial and then $29.99. That is not the fee today. You will pay a flat fee. They've graduated as a business, so prices went up, right? And so with them, you have the ability to schedule, monitor, report. Since they have elevated within the last 10, 15 years, their interface does have a lot of different options, but it's still more, I'd say, aesthetically pleasing than maybe your Google Analytics, and it has, I'd say, more front-facing, a better user interface, essentially, for you to be able to navigate around. And then lastly, with Sprout Social, I want to say the standout for them is the ability to do social listening. Like, why would you want to listen on social? But it allows for you to be able to kind of be deep within those conversations to see what's a trending topic, things that you would have known about because you're in the middle of running your business or, doing whatever. And now here it is, you can pull in, okay, well, it's not just about so-and-so that performed at the halftime show. It's also about his counterparts and their new $20 clothes, right? And you wouldn't have known that unless you had some extra ears inside of the internet. Again, you're thinking about the fact that the internet is huge and it's global and it's worldwide. And just like you don't have the ability to be in multiple places at one time, this allows for you to be in multiple different conversations, especially among your target audience. So I think that's super great. The other thing that I think is super important too is the ability to have multiple team members be able to collaborate. Depending on the stage of your business, you're gonna ideally grow in size of your marketing team or who it is. And you may start out with just creating the content. And then you'll move up to, okay, now we're scheduling. Okay, now we're running reports. Okay, now we have influencers, right? So all of that requires a different expertise, but you want to be able to have your head person and any subsidiary folks be able to connect on one platform. And so Sprout Social has that capability. And I want to say Hootsuite and Buffer do as well. Just know that for each user, there usually is an additional premium to that as well.
That's really helpful that, it can take a lot of time, energy, and effort, it sounds like, to go to all these different platforms. And I like the way, Desha, you said it, for your own health, for your own time, having these platforms that are doing these extra things, not just showing you the analytics, but the social listening. That was really interesting. Okay, so lots of things going on, social media wise, on the great big internet. But Divya, I'd love to ask you, how can entrepreneurs track the outcomes and effectiveness of more traditional, like analog marketing tactics, like our flyers, word of mouth, coupon, frequent buyer cards, all those good things?
Yes, tracking the outcome or effectiveness of analog and traditional marketing definitely can be a little more challenging. I think we've gone a long ways in terms of digital marketing. Desha called out a few things with social, and there's so much analytics with every platform. But yes, with traditional, there can still be some strategies and tools that you can think of ahead of time and plan so that you can connect the impact of your traditional marketing along with your digital marketing. I know all of us have done this or used, but unique coupon codes, right? So you can actually tie unique coupon codes to each of your marketing efforts. So that way, when your customer gives you that unique coupon code, you can easily tie it back to that traditional or analog marketing that you've done. you can actually just ask as well. So when I say just ask, like, if you have a customer coming in, you can ask them, where did you hear about us, or how did you hear about us, and give those options of those marketing tactics that you'll have used in the analog world or the traditional world. Or it can be a survey. So if it's a digital channel on which you're selling, you can have a survey that says, how did you hear about us? So not every time people will answer, but some people do answer, right? And give you that feedback. Another thing we use a lot is QR codes or vanity URL or transferable URL. Now, QR code is easy. Everybody has a phone and you can scan with that. It usually has a domain name followed by a path, and then there are some parameters that you can actually add to that QR code as it resolves. Now, those parameters can do the tracking for you to tell you where it's coming from. So if there's a QR code on a printed material, which is a traditional marketing way, you can then connect it to say, oh, it came from this particular printed material. This is how I got the awareness, and then the customer coming into my website. Vanity URLs work similarly too. If I tell you, there's so much we can do for your returns, and why don't you come check us out, and give you this long web page. Nobody's going to remember that. But what I could do is, if I have a printed material or a billboard, if I can afford it, and then I say, here is where you can go to get more information, I can set up a vanity URL. A vanity URL is nothing but a URL that is easy, catchy, and quick to remember. So this is a FedEx ad you're seeing, for example. And if you want to be able to remember it quickly, you want to give it a short and sweet URL. And if I say, just go to fedex.com/coupons or /returns, you then know, or you can remember it. And when somebody types that in, it automatically redirects. Those parameters, kick in when you're sending it back, and then you can then tie it to, oh, this is that one billboard on that road, or this is this printed material. So that's another way you can also track some of your analog marketing efforts. You can probably also think about frequent buyer cards. I know we haven't seen that in a while, but my kids go and have bubble tea very often, and they have the frequent buyer card, and they make sure they're like, Mom, I'm on my 5th one. I get my free bubble tea. So, you can see I make more purchases because of that frequent buyer card. So that's another one. And there's, you can also do things like, if you have advertising where you're asking them to call you, or they're asking them to email you for questions, or set up something like lead generation tactic, you can have unique email boxes or unique phone numbers. So that way you can also tie it to your traditional marketing efforts. Some companies also team up. You can have a referral program where you incentivize your customers to use or buy more with you. But at the same time, you can team up and collaborate with each other, and maybe bank into some of their customers, and they can do vice versa. So you can expand your market that way. So a combination of referral programs plus coordinated and combined events. So those are some ways that you could measure some of your analog or traditional marketing, and then tie it into all your digital efforts to get that holistic picture.
Yes, I really like that, because it really blends the things that maybe we're more familiar with, or old school, like your flyers and whatnot. And rather than completely changing that tactic or getting rid of it, just adding a QR code or the vanity URL or something like that makes it easy and trackable to get you that data. That's so interesting. And I'm now thinking about my frequent buyer cards that are in my wallet that I need to go use, honestly. Okay, so this next question, this is so much good information. There is a lot of it though. So Desha, I want to ask, what are some signs that maybe a business is ready for the owner to hire a professional to help with these kind of marketing and analytic strategies?
Sure. In entertainment, they would have a saying, they would say, get a manager when there's something to manage. And so essentially that speaks to understanding whether or not this business has product market fit. Have you gone through the trials of, is what you all selling, whether it's a service, whether it's a product, is that properly aligned with the right type of customer? Getting those fundamentals out the way helps you not only to understand if there's growth and potential and trends within this business, but it's definitely going to help when you outsource, whether bringing somebody in-house or whether hiring somebody out of the particular company to be able to do this. You're also going to think about the numbers. You know, what are the margins? What are the set-asides that you have? Won't dive too deep into your finances on this one, but just, you know, some quick numbers to kind of give perspective. At one point, they were saying, well, you know, to maintain, you might spend 5% of your budget. Well, then it kind of went up a little bit, because when you're purchasing, it's content creation, it's managing it, it's the analytics, and then it's the actual ad spend that you have to think about when you include that cost. So then it went up to 10%. And then depending upon how competitive your product is, you might be spending 20%. And so, you know, again, I go back to there's a very notable entertainer that has $20 clothes right now, unheard of, right? And the amount of money they spent on an ad to get people to buy their $20 clothes. You're like, why would they do that? But they did that because when you go back and look at the website, one, it's a very simple website. Two, you can see, okay, this maybe is the direction where, you know, this product is going to go, maybe not. And it all depends upon what traffic drove there, what are they mostly clicking on, what sizes. It's an amazing thing to be able to see this in real time. But the same thing can happen for your business if you have the resources and the tools. So again, just summary, you're thinking about the actual stage of the business. You're thinking about product market fit. You're thinking about the margins, what you can set aside, how competitive. And ultimately, if you understand that there's not enough time and not enough expertise for your team, and then you have the ability to onboard more, that is the way that companies grow. It is not a one-man effort. It definitely takes a lot of hands. So.
Yes, I love that, how you kicked off that question, you know, hire a manager when there's something to manage. It makes sense. It makes sense. And I know we're dropping some resources in the chat, and I see some questions about the links. There is going to be an article with this webinar recording attached to it. So yes, we will have links. We will have additional resources for you. So don't worry, those will be there. And if you have questions, now is a great time to start dropping those in the chat, because we'll be getting into our live Q&A in about 10 minutes. Okay, so we've talked about like a lot of different areas of what you can track and who you can get to support you. So Divya, I want to start with you for this question. Once a business owner identifies the most important marketing analytic that they want to track, how should they go about setting goals for improving those metrics, and what tactics could they start to explore to try and reach those goals?
Yeah, starting off, defining your goals, right? So I'm glad. So you said that a business owners define their goals, but make sure you define them well, right? Make sure your goals, I'm sure we've all heard this, or a lot of us have heard this, make them SMART. So when we say make them SMART, be very specific. So it's very specific. You know that, you know, it's measurable, it's achievable, you know. And then you also make sure that it's relative and it is time bound. So making sure that it is a SMART goal will be the first thing that you have to do once you set those goals. To do a SMART goal, you have to understand where you are today. So it's important to look at some baseline metrics. Let's say your goal is to increase your site traffic by 20%. But what is 20%? Like, what is it today? and is 20% available. So that's where you need to look at baseline metrics. Look at the last 2 years, look at your seasonality, look at when people are coming in. What's your peak season? Is it a seasonal product or service? So understanding all of that, making sure you have some baseline metrics will help in that previous step of, not only determining a SMART goal, but making sure you are able to measure it and keep track of it. Once you've done that, I think the next step would be to identify what are the drivers that would then help you achieve that goal. For that, you might need to do some, customer behavioral analysis, market trends, maybe some competitive analysis, and see what is it that what is your strategy going to be so that you can achieve your goal. Once you come up with this strategy to achieve the goal, you can then say, now what channels can I use, or what marketing tactics can I use? So that strategy and tactics go hand in hand, to say, okay, if it is to increase website traffic, is it because I need to understand better, I need to have better content? So there's content marketing. Do I need to have search engine optimization so my content is easily searchable and people can find it organically? Do I need to put some paid money behind it? Am I going after the prospects? So do I need to put some, paid targeting behind it? Do I have a good customer base and I can actually, is it a message I want to give my current customers? And maybe I can reach them through email. So that's, another tactic. Maybe you can use social media influencers and, spend that 7 million and get, or on a Super Bowl ad. So think about all of those ways that you can be thinking about it, and tactics that will align with your strategy and then with your goal. However, while we're doing all this, we need a budget. We all need that money. So we'll have to think through, what is the budget needed for? Is it needed for hiring? Do we need tools? Do we need to outsource certain things? Maybe we really need an amazing ad. Do we need experts? So think about all of that and allocate that budget. So once we have a balance between budget, tactics, and strategy, and then leading up to that goal, we're all set to go. We can implement it, and then the next step would be to make sure we monitor. So monitor every aspect. We spoke about all of those final goals plus those other metrics that you can keep track of earlier on in this webinar. So keep track of all that. See, where your customers are struggling. Make sure you monitor all the metrics that are related to your success, and keep track of that progress. I would say review, learn where you're getting your biggest bang for buck, and change your marketing strategy as you go. I would say learn from your mistakes, but also celebrate those wins, and maybe put in a little more money where it's working really hard. So I would say that's some of the steps that would really work, and we just get better and improve on it.
Yes, I love that. And I love how you're talking about using that data that you get to understand where to put more of that investment. Yeah, because we want to be smart with our money. That's for sure. And Desha, I want to ask you the same question. So once a business owner identifies the most important marketing analytic that they want to track, how can they go about setting goals, and then also some tactics to reach those goals?
Great question. Similar to what Divya said, you're going to want to understand what has already been done and how successful it was. As we mentioned earlier, Instagram is going to give you a snapshot of maybe the last 90 days. But when you dive deeper into your Google Analytics, I think they're giving you relatively about a year, maybe 14 months or so. And so how did those campaigns go? Did they go well? Did they give you the leads that you needed? What were the costs per clicks? Again, seeing what happened in the past. And then, similarly, you're going to set specific goals. I appreciate the one that Divya had, right? We're going to increase sales by 20%, but it's like, by when? Is that in 6 months? Is that 2 years? What does that mean? Oftentimes, this is where there often is a mismatch, because we'll say, we want more sales, we want more customers, but you need to really fine tune what type of customers, and what type of sales. I know earlier we had talked about things like customer lifetime value. Well, if the lifetime is that one-time $20 purchase and you don't get to upsell them or they don't ever come back, well, your customer was $20, but did you spend $1,000 to get that $20 customer? And did you have 50 more? That's the math. Did you get 50 more customers to at least break even? Those are the kind of things that you're having to consider. And so again, understanding the past, setting goals for the future, and then looking at your kind of various strategies within all of your digital media resources. So for those out there that are like, I kind of don't do well at making plans, what does a typical plan maybe look like? And so it may have something like, well, we're going to make sure we're going to optimize this website, make sure we do an audit, make sure we correct all the links and have the proper headers. One of the businesses that are on here, they sell spices. Imagine if they had butter where it should say spice, or salt where it's supposed to say pepper. And they're like, I don't know why people are trying to look for my spices and they can't find me. Well, you have butter in your header and not spice, right? So simple things like correcting that. You may have to go back and actually do that. You might have something that's a lead gen campaign, maybe an inbound strategy, right? For instance, if you're selling hair care products, what is the best shampoo for humidity days? Or how do you like to wear your hair? Some cool type of advertising to get and reel people back to those particular products and enticing them and incentivizing them for their opinions and for their interest in your products. The next thing may be some type of email or newsletter, right? Something, some cool GIF that comes out based on the particular product. And so one of the brands I was speaking to recently, they do accessories, hats and bands and bicycle shorts and all kind of cool stuff. And they might literally come out with a meme based on how their products either aligned with the Super Bowl or aligned with Valentine's Day or whatever holiday is coming up, and that drops in the newsletter. And that's the first thing you see, and it captures you. I want to read more. I want to click on it. Or, I've been meaning to buy something. And so again, all of that is a combined strategy, but it only happens because you looked at your past, you audited and corrected what needs to be done, and then you plan for the future with things that could be very specific and measurable. And then you figured out the team, the budget, and the checkpoints at which you're going to hold that team and that budget account.
I was on mute. Oh. No, those are really, really great tips, especially just the call out, Desha and Divya, to knowing where you're at right now and where, we can all set a goal. I can say I want to be 20% happier tomorrow, but if I don't even know what today is, it's going to be so hard to really establish that. And to Divya's point, celebrate when you win. And so what I want to mention here is, if you are in the audience and you are thinking like, I have all these numbers, I just don't know where I'm at right now, I really need some one-on-one support, we're going to drop a link in the chat to our free coaching hub, because you can sit down with a coach who has knowledge of this, and you can look at your numbers together and get that support. So we're going to drop that link in the chat in case you want more one-on-one. But we've got some great questions that have come through for the Q&A. So please feel free to go ahead and continue to drop the questions in the chat. We'll get to as many as we can, but I think we'll go ahead and get started. So this first question is, I think I'm going to kick it to Desha, but Divya, please feel free to jump in. This question is, where is a good place to find out how to set up our Google Analytics so that they can just start grabbing this information?
If you are not going to outsource it, then you need to get some popcorn and a blanket and connect with YouTube and just go line by line they're so patient with their words, and I want to say that it's in a lot of languages that folks can be able to understand, but it's connecting your Google Analytics to your website is like changing your oil. It's not impossible, but you're going to want to take the time out to prepare for it, and be okay if you click something in the wrong place or need to, try again. That's why it's just important to make sure you either have an expert or you're just going to take the time to set aside and do it.
Yeah, blanket, popcorn, and some patience.
I love it.
You start playing around with it, and I think you're going to like it. You're going to love, you know your website more. This number doesn't look right. So you're going to figure out, if you're going wrong. And once you start playing around with it, there is a learning curve, but then it gets exciting because it's challenging as well.
Yes, yes, I love that. Okay, this question is for Divya. Can you talk about cart abandonment? Because earlier in our conversation, we talked about that being one of the metrics. The question is, for instance, if someone abandons their carts, what could be the cause? At what stage?
Yeah.
Discomfort, all that things. So yes.
There could be multiple reasons. It really depends on your product or your service. But, I think that's a good metric to look at. People could be abandoning your cart because you expect them to provide or log in to be able to purchase. So maybe somebody doesn't want to give you all that information, the personal information. They want to be able to check out as a guest, right? Without giving you all of that information. So that might be one of those friction points that some people don't like. Maybe you're asking them to pay in one particular way, and they want to pay some other way, so they don't want to proceed with that. So you need to not only look at first, the numbers are only going to tell you there's a problem. Then there's going to be a little more analysis to say why, right? So you're going to look at that as well. It could also mean that the purchase intent, there is an interest, but there is not an immediate need. So they have it in their cart to come back to. So maybe you need to monitor that these people are, if they put it in their cart, did they come back? Maybe they forgot about it. Now can I see that, oh, Divya's got this in her cart, but she hasn't bought those shoes. Next time she's on this website, let me remind her, hey, you have this in your cart. Do you want to go ahead and check out before it goes out, and you don't get the chance to check out? So you entice her, or maybe you say, here's a 10% off if you check it out right now. So these are actions you can take to reduce that cart abandonment and make that. So if you're going to make a profit of $10, if she forgets about it, you'll probably not make those $10. But if you give her a 10%, you'll at least make $9. So maybe that's where you need to think through it. And, make sure you're retargeting. Maybe you're personalizing it a little bit to her. We've all seen the tracking that happens where, you have something that you've looked at and they come back showing you ads. But maybe don't get that creepy, but then do some amount of personalization so that your customers don't leave your cart. But like I said, there's multiple reasons. It really depends on your product, your service. I think there's some due diligence you can do once you start looking at numbers.
Yes, that is super helpful. And I have definitely been subjected to the creepy abandonment cart emails, and they have converted me. So it doesn't bother me too much. This is a good question. Someone is asking, they're saying they're very new to all this and they're about to set up a marketing campaign, and they're just wondering one analytic to start with, like feeling a little bit overwhelmed, wondering where can they start. So I'd love to start with Desha, and then I'll kick it to you, Divya.
Just one? Oh, goodness. Okay. You know what? I believe that the first goal can be centered around engagement with that post. So if you're brand new, do folks even see it, like it, share it? And that's still a part of one big goal, in my professional opinion, because we haven't even talked about, do they actually follow through with the click to action? Do they follow through on the call to action, which might be visit the website or sign up for this, but how are they interacting with the post?
How are they interacting with the post? Love it. Divya, what about you? If someone can only focus on one.
Is it one tool or one metric?
It
The
says one
question.
metric, but to the best, one or a few. We'll expand a little bit.
Yeah, I see. If it's one metric, I would say yes. I think when you talk about being smart with your goals, yes, there has to be one metric you're driving towards. So if you are having, let's say your metric is brand awareness, or your metric is making sure more people hear about you, then you have to be very clear that, okay, right now, I'm going to go more towards impressions and eyeballs and engagement, so that, because what I need is that awareness, which can then convert into conversion. I think where we get lost is if we try to do an awareness specific marketing campaign, but we're looking at sales from it. Yes, there will be a residual impact of more awareness leads to more sales, but you want to be very clear when you're setting up those metrics. So if it's one metric you're looking at, try to understand what is it that you want. Are you looking at the bottom of funnel conversion? Are you looking at top of funnel awareness? Are you looking at middle funnel retention? And then pick that one metric. Understand that your decisions will be based on driving that particular metric up, but don't get dissuaded by the other metrics that go down. But make sure you observe them, because you're definitely learning from it.
Yes, super helpful. Just to know that you can look at one thing and focus on one thing, but that is just one thing. So I think that one of the themes here has been knowing when to get support and how to get support. And this last question has come through in a couple of different forms, but basically, how can we find a legitimate support? Because a lot of folks are asking about, as a small business owner, we know you get inundated with requests for people to fix your analytics, do your SEO. Like, how can we really distinguish between a valid, helpful resource if we're ready to take our business to that next level? Like, what kind of things should we be looking for? Desha, I'd love to start with you and then kick it to Divya.
And that's a great question. I think I get those emails all the time. As soon as you set up a website, they brought the distribution list to send out advertisements. They're doing their job, so I'm not mad at it. But I would say that there is a track record online, and then even with other business owners, of what software they use, or what has your experience been. So that's on one hand. And some folks may say, well, it's the internet and you can kind of create what you want and it can live there. Okay, cool. If you take the time to actually entertain or actually talk to that particular marketing person, they have to be, or you should require them to really detail out, what does it mean to do business with you? What is your pricing? Who is it that's going to work on this project? What have been your case studies? Please send me some references. It doesn't matter if it's who's going to work on your website, who's going to work on your car, who it is that's going to do your manufacturing, or who it is that's going to work on your team. You have to take the time to actually review and understand if there's an expertise fit, a cultural fit. Do they have experience working with businesses like yours? You may want to work with, the gold and platinum standard of marketers, but have they ever worked with a business of your industry, of your size, or that speaks to your particular audience? All of that has to make sense. And you still have a budget, right? And so you want to be reasonable with saying, hey, does it fit the budget? Does it fit the culture? Does it fit the expertise that you need? And do your due diligence.
Yeah, that's great. I think Desha covered it all. Yeah, do your due diligence. And I agree. Keep your core, bank on some of your peers. Ask them, what are they using to, help with their marketing analytics. Get their, referrals. Again, we were talking about referrals before, so you will be surprised how much a referral means, especially in something like like this. A lot of this is challenging, new, there's a lot to learn. So if you are getting on board with somebody that is going to help you, not only do they have to be, a good cultural fit, and do they have to be somebody that, is within your budget and works well with you, you also want to make sure that you can at least, completely also have a good trusting relationship with them so that you see the best for your business. So evaluate how much, this investment is also bringing in terms of, your improvements that you're able to do to your business. I think that's the only thing I would add.
Amazing. Those are super helpful. Yes. Look for cultural fit, look for, meet with those folks. I think that's super important. And I feel like this topic could go on for hours and hours, right? Data, there is so much of it. It's one of the most valuable resources right now is data. And so if you still have questions or have questions that didn't get answered, please take a look at the free coaching services that we have so that we can support you specifically with your business. We'll be sending out tons of resources tomorrow. I really want to thank Divya and Desha for spending their time educating us all on getting more familiar with those advanced marketing analytics. And I hope everyone here feels a little bit more prepared to tackle that in 2024. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.